Hello, I'm Jim Kelly with Saddle Point Systems, and I'm here to show you how to get the strongest possible bind using the Fastback Tape Binder. The Fastback will do some beautiful books. This is the image strip book. This is a perfect bound book, hardcover books, or tape binding books. But in all cases, there are some tips that'll make a much stronger bind if you follow them. The first thing is the paper on the inside. You want the paper on the inside normally not to be a very heavy cardstock. So something between a 20-pound bond and a 32-pound bond is good. The other thing is if you're doing tabs, you want to use a thin tab. They work very well. They seal all the way across the edge. There are no stress points in the Fastback, so you don't have to worry about using a heavy tab. Thin tabs work best. And it also makes the book work better when it's bound. Another thing to watch out for is if you're doing full bleed with your copier, try not to do full bleed to the binding edge. Because if the glue it binds on the toner can come off the page and the page can come out. So what we recommend is that you leave a white margin on the binding edge. And to show you the difference between doing that and not doing that, I did a sample here. So this is a sample of a full bleed sheet, and you can see here that toner is being pulled off the page. Whereas on this sheet here where we left a little white margin, you don't have that problem at all. It makes for a much stronger book not to do full bleed there. You can do it on the other side, that's fine. Another thing, and a very important thing to watch out for, is the grain of the sheet. And what grain is it's the way the fibers are aligned in the paper. When paper is made, it's made in a fluid solution with cellulose fibers running down virtually a river to make the paper. And just like logs, those fibers align themselves in the direction of the flow. So when paper's made, you tend to get the fibers in this kind of pattern. Now there's a big difference between this direction and this direction. This is with the grain, and if you bend a piece of paper this way, it's going to bend easier because it's not trying to bend those fibers. If you bend it this way, you're trying to bend all the fibers, and that's where the strength is. So it's difficult to bend this way. And so you want the binding edge to be with the fibers so that it bends nicely and doesn't try to crack out of the book. So how do you know which way the fibers go? You can look at the package, and on a lot of the packages it will tell you this says 8.5 by 11, but the 11 is underlined, meaning that's the grain direction. So the grain direction is the 11-inch direction on that one. On this package of paper, it tells you the grain direction is short, meaning it's the short direction on the sheet, which is this way, not this way. And on this one, it says 8.5 by 11 L next to the 11, meaning again, the grain direction is in the 11-inch direction. If you look at this one, it does not tell you. So, you can ask the vendor what direction it is. Usually on 8.5 by 11, almost always, the grain is long, in the long direction. If you have paper and you don't know which direction the grain is, you can cut a square out of the paper, and remembering which was the 11-inch direction, because you won't be able to tell after you cut it into a square, you put it on the edge of a table and you let it sag like that, and you look how far it bends down, and then you turn it 90 degrees and put it in the middle again. Same amount has to sag, but notice how it sags much more in that direction. That means the grain of this paper is running this way, where it's easy to bend. When you do it this way, you're pressing against the fibers. The fibers are going this way. So you can tell that way. And to show you the effect of grain in a bound book, if you look at this book, this was bound properly with the grain. So the spine is in the same direction as the grain. And if you notice, this is a very smooth, straight line bind, and it makes for a very strong book. So it's just an amazingly good book. The tape binder does a wonderful job, but you have to pay attention to some of these things. This is the exact same paper bound in the other direction. So this is bound against the grain. The grain is running in this way. And notice this puckering you're getting here. You're getting opening up here where you can see through to the spine. This is going to be a weak book because you're binding against the grain. So that's grain. The next thing to worry about, and this is a very important thing, probably the biggest problem we see with the Fastback, is people not jogging the paper properly. When the paper comes out of your copier, it might look like this. Hopefully it doesn't look that bad, but it's got to be jogged. It's just vital. So you can get a machine like this to do the jogging, which is very nice. And that puts all those sheets perfectly together. If you don't have a machine like that, you can jog by hand by bending the paper, pinching the edges, opening it up, and what that does is it puts air between every sheet. And then you can just bring it over and work it down like this. And that's the way you jog. And you can also do it in the other direction. So, if you follow all of those things, then you can bind your book. So, the cover stock doesn't matter. You can use anything you want on the cover stock. And the reason for that is you've got all this white glue here that's adhering to the cover. So, it'll stick to virtually anything. So, you don't have to worry about the cover at all. The individual pages are what we're talking about. They have to be bound just on the very edge, so the edges have to be down. So this is all perfect to go. We make sure it's jogged. We put it in the binder. And we bind it up. The last thing, the last tip, is after it's bound, it's got to go in the cooling rack, so that the glue sets up nice and square. And it needs to be in the cooling rack for about a minute. Then you can take it out and put it somewhere, but you don't want to open the book for about 10 minutes. So that's it. If you have any tips to share with us, you can add a comment or call us. Thank you very much.